All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jen Kelfy, and welcome to the Digital Marketing Lunch and Learn webinar series. This is being hosted by both HSMAI South Florida chapter as well as Vizergy Digital Marketing. Like I mentioned, my name is Jen. I'm an account executive here at Vizergy, and I don't want to take up too much time here with our intros, but I wanted to do a quick good of the order and just say that I will be your moderator today. So if you have any questions, comments, or feedback as we move through today's presentations, please feel free to put it in the questions and answers comment section down at the bottom of your screen. We'll be keeping an eye on that and making sure all questions get answered today. So without further ado, I'm going to pass things off to my colleague and the man of the hour, Vizergy's creative director, Jeremiah Matthews.
Thanks, Jen. Can you see my screen? No?
Sure can.
Okay, perfect. Cool. All right. Well, thanks. So today we're going to be talking about website best practices, as well as just kind of making your site accessible for all. So the first part of this is definitely going to be around accessibility. And the second part is kind of going to be a best practice all around. So who am I? Sherry gave me a really good intro, but I am Jeremiah. I'm the creative director at Vizergy Digital Marketing, and I have been at Vizergy for 7 years in the hospitality industry for a little longer than that, but I have 12 years of agency experience in the digital space, mostly working with boring corporate companies, but then I worked for some sports teams before I came to the hospitality industry. And once you've been in hotels and done beautiful websites, it's hard to go back to the boring stuff. So I think I'm here to stay. I have a degree in graphic and web design. So just to give you a little explanation, back then we were using Flash as well as the same programs we're using now. And it was the new upcoming thing was Flash. And it's not even around anymore because of privacy issues and ADA issues. So it just shows that this is a constant state of flux. And if you don't like change and you don't like that growth, you're probably in the wrong industry because it keeps changing. And what I'm saying today, next year, things may have changed and may have grown. And we kind of take that at Vizergy as exciting. And it's definitely part of the reoccurring nature of ADA, where your website's ADA accessible the day it launches. How do we then keep it ADA accessible long term? So we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about some things you can do to be an advocate and ways you can help your website stay ADA accessible. So I'm going to try to give you some action items and give you some things that can just help you for the long run, keep that website accessible, and then no longer keep yourself a passive interest in the website, but you don't need people like me. You can do it yourself. So anyway. Also, I'm not a good monologuer, so ask questions at will, keep them coming, which I told Jen just to interrupt me, and we can definitely get your questions answered. If we miss any questions, I'll email you after, but hopefully we can make this more of a conversation than a monologue, because nobody wants that. Who is Vizergy? Vizergy is a data-driven digital marketing agency in the hospitality space. That was a lot of D's. But we've been around for a long time, and we have 1,700 hotels, restaurants, and casinos. So we definitely know what we're talking about. And I hope as the creative director here, I can get all your questions answered. But I think the thing to really point out about Vizergy is we're a great partner for some larger brands. We're not the biggest guy in the industry, and I don't think we aspire to be. We aspire to be really smart companies, digital agency of record, and then kind of work as a partner to help them as much as we can on these websites. So for a company like Hard Rock, we're part of the arm of their digital space and their website. So a lot of these companies really put their trust in us for the long term. And I see that as a huge vote of confidence when you have really smart companies like Aimbridge or Remington really putting their trust in us as their digital marketing agency. So I appreciate that. Anyway, it's enough about me and Vizergy. We're all here to learn, and I'm going to try not to bore your pants off. So all about accessibility. Accessibility is just the ability to access anything. So we want a storefront to function just like just like for a sighted person as an unsighted person or a person that has some accessibility issues. So in this case, we are talking about your digital storefront, which is your website. There are different types of accessibility, and there's so many. I mean, it could go seizures, attention issues, but for now, the main things I'm going to focus on are people who are completely blind, who cannot see at all, people that have vision impairment, that they can still see, but it's not perfect, or let's say color blindness, and then motor issues, where they're going to have a hard time clicking or tapping. Those are most of the issues we see with using websites. And then why would you need to care? Like maybe you run marketing for a hotel or a hotel brand. Well, number one is the lawsuits, and we see complaints a lot. They've definitely trickled off and they've started to change. Like I said, this is all malleable and it's changing as we go, but lawsuits really can stop you in your tracks and can really make you look like you're not doing your job. So what I want to do is try to make you a hard target. There's a few things we can do, but more than anything, we're going to make sure that your ADA is on point. Now, I can't say someone's not going to send you a frivolous lawsuit. That's impossible. But if we're a hard target and we're creating a historical data set of what we have done to make our websites ADA accessible, it's a great start, and it's a great thing to show those complainants of something we can show them and say, hey, we've been trying and we've been making a good faith effort to keep our website accessible to all. But again, I think possibly losing customers is a huge problem and something we really need to focus on, and something we really need to see as a huge problem, because I'm spending all this time making this beautiful website that works and functions well for SEO. Then we're taking all this work to get that person to your site, and then we're not letting them convert via booking a room. That's a big problem for me, and I think it's just letting money go away that either we've paid for with paid media or gotten them there by our own sweat. So I don't see a reason why we should not let those customers book a room. And if we do our due diligence, it's easy enough. Okay. And then getting rank lower due to page speed and old coding issues. This is kind of a few different ways this could happen. And Core Web Vitals, which was kind of a big issue, really hasn't come to fruition as we thought it would. But definitely you'll see that older websites start to rank lower. And as Google makes updates, you're going to chip down those natural search rankings. And also the page speed can be an issue because people are bouncing because your website is taking too long to load. So then if more people are bouncing, you're going to start ranking lower. So I would say there's a lot of reasons to focus on this. Even though it's not the flashiest idea, it can make you a lot of money and it can make you the advocate for your company. So. All right, so we're going to do some trainings. This is harder to do on on a webinar, but we're going to work on it. So color contrast, WCAG standards, which WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. You'll hear me say WCAG a lot because that's kind of what we see as the standard that we code to. But they say you need to have a color contrast of 4.5 to make it pass accessibility standards. Now, this is an important part of the process. I'm going to pull it up real quick to show you how it works. And I'm going to show you how you can do it. It doesn't need to be me. So accessible-colors.com is the website. You can go there yourself. It's super easy. But they are looking for a hex code, which is the code of the colors. And many of you may not know what that is. Some of you probably will, but I'm going to show you how to find it. It's going to look scary at first if you're not. All right, so I'm on this website. Our website looks great, but I am the marketing department and I want to make sure that my developers did a great job building this website and thought about ADA. So all I'm going to do is right click on the color that kind of like, so this black color with this tan color, it feels a little close. So I'm just going to double check. I'm going to right click on that color and hit inspect. It's going to bring up this really scary panel that you don't really need to read all this. You don't need to know how to read code. I'm just going to explain. So this left side is HTML. That's the structure of our code. The right side panel over here is our CSS, which is our style. So CSS is written pretty plainly, so it's not super hard to see. And I can see background dash color equals this. So I've got my color right here. I'm going to just copy that hex code and I'm going to put it in here. So it's not passing with a gray color I want, so I need to kind of find a color that could be accessible. So it's going to tell you either you need to change your background color to this, or you need to change your foreground, your text color to this. And then that's going to keep you compliant. The thing I like about this is it shows you what you need to do to be compliant. And then I can put in, the closest thing, which is this. And now I see that it passes. So I kind of see what it needs to be to pass. We've already done this 100 times, so we understand. And while we're in here, I'm just going to right click one more time. And then if you ever, let's say you're showing someone something and you want to show maybe your boss what it's like to change a color, you can always come in here and click this little swatch and just choose a new color. You can choose white, or in theory, you could choose this green color, and you can show them by screenshot. Now I can screenshot this. Obviously, this wouldn't be the idea, but I could screenshot this and really quickly prototype on the fly. It's not going to save this. So next time I load the page, it's going to be just like it was. But you can just right click and change things, and it's not as really as scary. Like I can change the text, and I can kind of show what things need to be. So just a small little thing where you could go in here and change something. You don't really need to be a passive person. So you have your hex codes. Another way you would have hex codes is via a brand guide. So your brand guide comes in like this. And again, kind of complicated looking, but it involves hex codes. And I would say as soon as a branding agency sends you your brand guide, use this accessible-colors.com, which I'm not sponsored by, to go in here and start to add those colors in and just see and make sure you can put different colors on each other. So like looking at this brand guide, they weren't necessarily thinking about colors being on top of each other and the ADA accessibility issues that had. So let's fast forward a year after your branding gets finished, all the signage is up, you go to get a new website made, and you find out you have all these accessibility issues on your colors. So it could be a huge issue down the road that you could have caught when you got that brand guide the first day. So I would say that's another way you could check your accessibility colors early in the process and really solve problems before they become problems. And we have seen this a lot. We have seen a lot of branding agencies forget about ADA. So I would just watch out for that. Another thing about branding guides is make sure your fonts that the branding agency chooses have web font alternatives. And I would say we've had agencies use fonts not thinking about the web font. They bring it to us and it's a $3,000, $4,000 charge per year for a font that looks identical to another font, and you wouldn't be able to tell. So again, a problem you could solve really early is to check to make sure your fonts on your branding guide have web fonts. Okay. One more learning time. So we use automated accessibility tools. We love them. They make my life so much easier. They are not enough. And they've really never been enough, but they are definitely not enough now. You need a manual component to your scanning. Most of the complaints we're seeing from lawyers, we always get these form complaints from lawyers, are related to a tabbing issue where someone has gone in and tried to use a screen reader. And when using that screen reader, they're unable to book and make an e-commerce transaction. A lot of this is not settled law, but it seems pretty obvious that e-commerce transactions are. So they're considering booking a room in e-commerce transaction, therefore they're filing a lawsuit. So when you read into a lot about it, it really makes sense. And you're saying you're going to have to come to me or some other subject matter expert to fix these things or to check them. And I say, no, 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 no. Do you have a keyboard? Yes. Okay. Do you have a tab key and an enter or return key? Hopefully, yes. If you don't, you need a new keyboard. So you just need these two keys to check this. I'm going to show you how. All right. Since we got a lot of Miami folk, the Tony Hotel. So first thing you're going to do when you load the site, again, this is easier in person, but I think you're going to get the idea, is reload your page. Let's say this is your website. I'm going to say all the keys I'm hitting. It's going to sound annoying, but it makes sense. All right, I'm going to hit tab. And you see skip to content comes up. That's a good sign that we have tried to make the site ADA accessible. What we're doing is saying someone who's not able to use a mouse can skip all the header content and go straight to the meat of the page, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense until you think about them trying to go through each page and having to go through the navigation and the booking every time. It would be terrible. So we're making the site easy to use for them. So then I'm going to hit tab again. I'm at the logo. You can see the logo's highlighted. I hit tab one more time and I'm at the book now. You can see it hovered like it would hover if I was focusing on it. And then I'm going to hit enter and you see the booking engine comes up. So this is something you can do. I've only hit 4 keys. So now hit tab and I'm going to hit enter and select a date. So I'm using my keypad to select a date. I'm going to pick the 18th. Hopefully the Tony's not full. And I'm going to choose the 22nd. Hit enter. Okay, and I'm hitting tab, then I'm hitting 2 adults. Okay, and you can see I can still go down here. I'm not bringing my kids with me to Miami Beach, so. And then I'm gonna hit tab and then enter to book a room. All right, so now you can see I booked a room. All my information came through. You can see 2 adults. My dates are correct. And then I have to go in and pick my room. So I made that e-commerce transaction, left the site. That's a great first start. And I really think this is the main thing we're seeing complaints for. So make sure this is working. So now I'm going to hit Command W to exit. And then I'm just going to try to make sure I can get out of this via tab. And then I can call, tab, enter to exit. And then I'm just going to hit tab a bunch of times to make sure my navigation's working. But you see, all this is very easy to do. It's something you can do to be an advocate for your website. And then what that makes you is the hero when you find these issues on your website before the lawsuit. And I would say so many of these times when someone's got a 6-year-old website, they come to us with the lawsuit in hand, where I think you can be the hero and get ahead of it just by doing little things like this. And I think the performance analysis scan is great and it's a great first start, but you also need to have a manual component like you're seeing here. It's so weird with nobody talking, but I'm trying. Okay, so I'm all the way to the end of the page. All my links are easy. Okay. Hopefully everybody understood that. If you don't, email me. I have my email at the end and we can talk about it. Okay. So again, I'm just trying to make you an advocate for your own website and no longer a passive viewer, but like a user and someone who can go in and check these things and hold your agency to account. As a partner, I want people there who are, involved. And I can think of clients like Valencia Hotel Group, who is so hyper involved in their ADA, and they got a complaint one time and they decided they were never going to get a complaint again. And I swear they have calendar reminders to go in and check every week, and they have not gotten a complaint since then. So again, I can't necessarily prevent frivolous lawsuits, but I can make you an incredibly hard target via these kind of things. Okay. I'm going to get spicy. Hopefully nobody on here is from one of these companies, but third-party accessibility overlays. Now I'm talking about a solution where you can kind of bolt on an accessibility overlay on your site to make your site ADA accessible. So it works perfectly. Everybody's happy. You're never going to get a lawsuit. Yeah, that literally does not exist. They do position themselves in that, and they will take your money happily, but they do not work. And I think they're a good Band-Aid, but it's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. It's not really doing a whole lot. Structurally, you need to change your website. So I'll show you an example of one. And it tried to break me earlier, so hopefully it doesn't do that again. All right, so you'll see down in the corner, there's an accessibility icon. And then it comes up and it's got all these great things you can do to try to help you change colors and stuff. But it really isn't changing the schematic code at all. And so we do not recommend these, and these are not recommended by any accessibility advocate I have seen. They all say stay away and spend your money on actually fixing your website. Like if you're going to pay these people money, just start chipping off issues and start fixing your website today. I would rather you put your money there. And I would also say we have seen in the past, especially in California, it happened where lawyers were going and finding their client list and then going and filing complaints against them because they knew if they had a Band-Aid on there, chances are there's a bigger problem behind the scenes. So it's up to you. And I would always say consult your own lawyer, but that's what we have found. Oops. Hold on, I'm going to reshare. All right. Sorry, guys. All right. So what would we do instead if we're not going to be able to use this bolt-on solution? Well, first we would scan your website. Use a scanning tool along with a manual system to go in and then make sure that you know what your ADA errors are and then what we're going to do for them. So make that list first. And then we're going to kind of identify your biggest problems first, starting with e-commerce and then going through the different areas all the way down to minor problems. There's 4 different kind of problems. It's critical, serious, moderate, and minor. So we're going to kind of make an order of importance, and you can fix them all at once, or you can start to get through that list, especially before you have a problem. And then I would say fix your problems. This is the part nobody likes. It costs a lot of money, and the website usually doesn't look very different from the aesthetics. And it can also mean a full site rebuild. If you've got a 6-year-old website, congratulations. Nobody's getting 6-year-old websites anymore, and that is a positive thing for you that you made a website last that long. I would say it's time for a new website, and I would say it's just one of those things you're going to need to change sometimes. And if your website, your storefronts last in 6 years, it's time for a new storefront, which nobody, sorry. And then after you fix those problems, celebrate your clean scan. It's the best feeling in the world when you knock one of those into a clean scan. But I would say the work doesn't end there, and you need to start checking quarterly all the time. And so it's about maintaining compliance. We can be compliant today. And being in a content management system, people can add 10 photos tomorrow that have no alt text, and we are no longer compliant. So we need to be checking our website to maintain compliance. Okay, so how are we going to do that? How are we going to maintain compliance? We at Vizergy, and I'm not doing a sales pitch here, this is just what we do, and I think you should tell your agencies and make your agencies make sure they're doing something like this, where they are going to be continuously checking your websites, or they have a built-in way of checking your websites all the time and then saving that information for later. So I'm going to explain. I'm just going to pull this up. And then I'm going to go into, I'm going to use our templates just so I don't call out one of our clients. So I'm inside of our Vizergy marketing system, our CMS, and then I'm going to go to the performance analysis. And this is just a system we built in that runs scans automatically. So we have a quarterly option where a developer on my team will go in and scan the website manually, scan the website like this, and then figure out what's wrong. There's an hour of time where they can fix small mistakes. If it's something bigger, then we go in and fix it more. And the reason you need to be continually checking is not just because maybe you never touch your website, but the WCAG standards are changing all the time and updating. So it's something you really need to be constantly checking. Something we have learned from lawyers is that to make yourself a hard target and to make yourself someone they don't want to mess with, you need historical data that shows that you have done a good faith effort to maintain compliance. You see how I'm using the lawyer words and everything. So If you go into a scan, this one doesn't have very many because it's a pretty new template, but as we go, we save all this information from our scans to show that we have had a problem and then we fixed it. We've had a problem and then we fixed it. We've had a problem and then we fixed it to show that as we go. So I'm just going into an old scan before we fixed anything, where there's an export where you can export details and export accessibility reports. That's something we've learned that they want to send back and forth to show that compliance maintaining. But then we also have this scan of all the pages for anything we want. And you can see there was an issue here where we weren't doing a correct coding thing, so we had to go in and fix it. So you'll see this as you go. You'll see small issues, you'll see bigger issues, and they'll say what level, if it's a serious issue, a critical issue. And then it'll also show you when you have page speed issues. So this is, again, we talk about our report card as a company, and we'll see, okay, well, we were really fast and everything, but something was shifting incorrectly. So we have to go back in and fix those. So we're maintaining your page speed, we're maintaining your SSL, and we're maintaining your accessibility all in a system like this quarterly. And I think this is powerful, and I think it shows us being a good partner when we're building in accessibility history and we're showing how we're really taking our accessibility partnership seriously. Anyway, performance analysis. Okay. Yeah, so compiled history of scans. So here's an example of a longer one where it's a compiled list of scans showing a good faith effort to maintain compliance. And I think that's important. We also have a self-service option where you can do it yourself. You could do a scan anytime you want, and then that also helps. Okay. All right, so real image alt text and for both ADA and SEO. So, I mean, obviously a huge ADA concern is people not adding image alt text, and we in our system now force you to add image alt text. So there's no way you could even if you tried, you couldn't come out of compliance in that instance. But I think really concentrating on what you say there is important, and it can also in another way help your SEO because that's something Google can crawl where they're not going to crawl your actual image. And then you might say, well, I don't have time. I got 500 photos I uploaded. What am I supposed to do? There's an answer. That's what I'm here for. All right. So I'm going to go to, I need to go. I'm going to show you another template just to show off all of our great work. Okay. So I'm going to go to image and docs, and then I'm going to add images. And then I'm going to add some of these images just to see. So you can bulk upload all these images. It'll take a second. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to image and docs. And what our system has done, oh, it needs to load. Hold on a second. All right, it's starting to load. Takes a minute. But it'll go in and with AI, it'll analyze the image and give you what the image is. So it'll say an aerial view of a town on a rocky island with a beach and water. So you'll see that. A woman's swimming underwater in clear blue water. Let me refresh this one more time. All right. Yeah. So it's updated them all. And you see, so without you even knowing it and kind of just as a background, we've gone in and added all that alt text via AI. So I think while some people are really positioning AI to be flashy and to be things you need to, buy extra and do all this other stuff, for us, we really want to like position us to be a partner. And like, how can we make your job easier? Let's say you have to upload 100 new images. How can we then make your life easier? And this is a great way to make the website better, make it more accessible, but also be a good partner so you don't have to think about your website as much. So anyway, little tip. And I would say, like, not being a sales pitch, but I would say, ask if you have a website with someone else, make sure they're doing this kind of stuff and make sure that they're treating accessibility the way it should, because when you get sued, they're not getting sued, you're getting sued. So I would say they need to treat you as a partner just like everybody else does, and hold them to things like this. All right, so that's my ADA talk. I have some best practice stuff, which is hopefully a little more interesting. But if you have any questions about ADA, or you have any questions like about the I don't know how well that went, showing you some of those code or the tabbing things. I would love to help you out and show you again. But best practices, just great user experience for all users. This is important to me. And I think this is where, as a design department, we want a great website and we want it to look as flashy as possible, but we also want it to work for all users. And we see so often that people are trying to make the design department look good and maybe get an award instead of making the hotel look good. And we constantly preach to our team, don't make yourselves the star, make the hotel the star. And that's really what we're trying to do. But how are we doing that? So I would say another instance that the CMS does a really good job is personalization, which I know has been around for a while, but I really see it underutilized in the hotel space. So I wanted to show you a few ways you could do that and get your noggin thinking. It's all built into our system, so it's pretty easy to use and it's pretty simple. Took me about 10 minutes. But here's a few different sample audiences you could choose from, whether it be from a mobile device, somebody in your town, maybe it's a wedding, maybe it's a repeat customer. There's a ton of different ways you can do. And I think it takes just a little bit extra work one time to add some of these in and then custom tailor that homepage to someone. Let's say they're coming from the Knot and they've linked from the Knot to you. We can now custom make that homepage to drive to the weddings and both get a RFP to the weddings. So I think that's an important tactic, and I'm going to show you how to do it. As long as I don't run out of time. Yeah, I'm doing good. All right. So I'm going to. All right. So I'm going to open an incognito window because I obviously already did this. So when the website loads, ugh, when I'm going to open the incognito window, I've got my regular hotel disco in here where I've got some info about the intro, and I wanted to really tailor that information. So if they go to weddings, so I'm on my weddings page, and this could variable could be anything you really want. It could be they went to the weddings page. It could be they came from a wedding website. It could really be anything you want. But then I go back to the home page. I've changed my hero to be more wedding related. And then I've also changed my intro to try to get them straight to the wedding specialist or whoever that person is to contact them. So right away, I've changed kind of my whole homepage to work better for them. So anyway, that's just an easy instance of personalization. I'm going to go in and just show real quick. So if I'm in here, this is my hero carousel widget. And then you can see I've just added different personalization requirements depending on what I'm doing. And then you can make as many as you want, and you can really custom tailor your homepage to a bunch of different users, whether it be long-term visitors that are over in a different country, or whether it be local visitors, whether it be people on their mobile phones. There's a lot of different powerful ways you can do that. And I just do feel like it's underutilized and an easy thing for someone to set up. And if you're with us and you have account management, the account manager can do all that work for you and kind of set up some ideas because we've done a bunch of them. So, okay. So I preach this all the time. So hopefully this makes sense, but get people excited about more than your hotel. I love hotels. I go to a lot of hotels, but the box of a hotel is not the only thing I want. I think there's a lot of things I want this website to be more experiential and show me kind of what I can do. And I want you to curate my stay for me. So I'm going to show you a few ways to do that. All right. So this is Marriott Hawaii. So this is not the way our widgets work. So this is an image of a map, and it's got different points on it where I can click, and then I can kind of pull up the different hotels. So in this instance, we're kind of using it for hotels. But if you're seeing, I'm doing all this without a mouse because it's ADA accessible, where a Google map is going to have a much harder time doing that. They're going to charge you an API, and they're not going to look branded. Where now we've made a map that can be used and manipulated, but it can also not cost you anything. It can be branded for your property and feel like part of the website, and it can be accessible. So we're really taking into account all users. We're making a better website that's useful to everyone. In this instance, we're using it for different hotels. But for you or for a single property, this could be things around you that people really enjoy, where you could curate their favorite place to eat, your favorite coffee place, maybe some places to walk, some trails, depending on where you are, some beach, the best beach to go to. That's kind of a hidden gem. Because I like to travel where I know people and they can show me, all their favorite things. Sorry, um, all their favorite things. Where instead of that, I would like a hotel to do that for me. You have a concierge, you have people at the front desk that live there and work there. They could easily add this information. We could add a widget that's already built, and you could have a more interactive homepage. And on that note, we obviously do all the Hard Rocks. Reverb is a brand Hard Rock is launching or has launched. And I think they do a really good job trying to knit together that story. So they do a similar thing that I talked about, but they use musicians. Obviously, you wouldn't need to do that, but they go in and they show via kind of a janky widget. They show the different places someone would want to go and why. So they kind of talk about why you would want to go there. And I think for them, they're trying to be edgy. So they're saying like, oh, these are the best bagels, especially if you're hungover. And then they mention the best bagel there. That's such a little detail that I love to see. And I love to see the best drink in town is at this place. And here's how you get there. And I think as hotels, we're being, we're really taking hospitality to our core with items like this. And then one other way we could do this, we have a daily timeline where you could kind of go in and curate someone's day. Now I'm being a little more bottom line minded here, because let's say you have a cafe, you have a restaurant, you have things around you, maybe you have bike rentals. That can all go into this, and we can start to capture some of that income besides the room, where we can say, hey, have a coffee at our cafe and then go for a bike ride. Here's the bike rental link. And then we can start to curate their day, capturing some of that money at the hotel. If you have restaurants, it's a great option to help someone kind of have a great day, but also keep some of that money in hotel versus going out. So I think there's both options and both work. But on most websites now, we're seeing none of this. We're not seeing any of this hospitality core. And it seems so easy, and it would be so quick to think of these things, ask people around you, where's the best Cuban? Where's your like favorite mom and pop shop that people don't know about? That would be, great for the business and great for our customer. Okay. And this is another thing I hit all the time, so bear with me, but it's never forget your story. Every time I get on a discovery call with a new client, I ask them for an elevator pitch, and I ask them what makes them different and what makes you special. Why do people come to you versus going elsewhere? And a lot of people don't have a great answer for that, don't have a quick answer for that. And you need to really dilute to your core who you are before you can tell that to other people. And it's something to meditate on and something to think about, like, who are we and why do people come here? Is it the great service they get? Is it, the restaurant's amazing? Is it the location? All right, so if it's the location, we need to put a map front and center and explain why our location is so much better than other people's. Because if we can't really answer that and distill that to its most common element, we can't then help you, and we can't tell the customer. And I think, getting down to that basest element is a really easy exercise. And it might involve your whole team. And what do people say best about us? What do our reviews say? And then try to focus on that on the homepage and tell people why we're so great. And are you showing your customers those different makers? And how does your marketing match your hotel experience? Now, 7 years ago when I started, I was making a Best Western look like a Ritz-Carlton. I thought that was the point. I was like, I'll make it look as great as you want it to. But after a while, I learned that makes for huge problems when the people get to the property. So while I want to put your best foot forward, I really want to tell your true story. So that's something you need to help us. You need to know who your clients are. And that's something we help people with every day. But I definitely think we need to tell our true story. And I think it's a good story to tell, but we don't need to fake it. So how do you do all these things? I would say invest in really high quality, up-to-date photos. If you don't have let's say you don't have a budget for high quality photos, I would say Google real estate developer or real estate photographer in my town, whatever, like real estate developer or real estate photographer in Miami. And what you're going to do is you're going to get someone who understands how to photograph space, and they're going to understand how to photograph rooms because they do it all day for real estate. They're quick, they're usually pretty cheap, and then they would love a job like this because it's a portfolio piece. They want to show more things like this so they can get more jobs. So it's an easy thing to do. It's a quick thing to do, but keep your photos up to date. Adding branding design assets. So some people have a really stale, older, simple branding guide, and getting a little punch up in that area can really help you, where you can add assets or illustrations or icons to just give it a little extra personality. Up-to-date content seems easy, but make sure you have content parity. Anytime the customer feels confused by differing information, we're not doing our job well. And I would say we've always said in the UX UI space, if somebody's confused, we didn't do our job. And I would kind of broaden that to all of marketing. Like if one of your customers is confused, we're not doing our job correctly. Customer reviews, everybody knows this. And I think let other people sing your praises on the homepage. Put it on the homepage. I usually put it at the bottom, but let people sing your praises. And good video. I always say use good video or don't use video. I've seen a lot of bad videos on a website that are just taking away from your page speed, taking away from lots of an area of real estate that could be better utilized. A good video is an amazing narrative tool, and I recommend it wholeheartedly, but it's incredibly expensive to do well. So if you have the money, go for it. But if you don't, use photos and use a really good power phrase slider element to where we can really make something happen. The real estate can be better used elsewhere. Okay. So I'm asking for questions. You can think. I'm going to sit for a second.
Jeremiah, we do have a couple questions in our chat that have just popped up. So we've got a question here from Franny. Do you have any ADA guidance on PDFs on websites? So menus, hotel directories, etc.
Yeah, good question. Cool. All right. So because PDFs are so inaccessible and forever, PDFs have been completely non-ADA accessible. There is a way now in Adobe Acrobat, which makes PDFs, to make them ADA accessible via, ADA scan or via the same stuff we use for a website. So you can do that. I would say it's hard to do without knowing Adobe Acrobat and having a license. But I would say something you could do is we have widgets that you can kind of use yourself, and I'll show you one real quick, where if I'm going to do it, let me pull it up real quick. So we kind of have our own menus, and we have different kinds of restaurant menus. So if you could come in, this is our showcase gallery where we kind of show all of the widgets we have and the ways we've used them. But I would recommend an on-page menu. I think it's easier, it's better to use. Sometimes what we do and what we've done lately is there's a link to the menu printed, and we say view printed menu. And that's the way we kind of get it right. We have the content in both areas. So you have a PDF if someone wants to print it, but you also have everything on page where a screen reader is easily going to do it, because PDFs are a waste that some people are going to makes you a softer target sometimes. Anything else?
Yeah, we got a lot of questions that have popped up over the last couple of minutes. So yeah, we've got how many times a year should a property scan their site for ADA compliance?
So we do quarterly scans at Vizergy, and we have a scanning tool. I don't want to get into like a lawyer thing where like you could talk to a lawyer about it, but I would say you're constantly running into compliance issues the more you update your website. If you're not updating your website very much, quarterly is just fine. I don't I don't see a huge issue in the quarterly method. If you get real, let's say you just got a lawsuit and got a new site made and you're going to start fresh, check it every month. And just to make sure you're kind of keeping in that compliance early. But eventually I would just do quarterly scans because we're still, like I said, showing all that history of all those scans. And I really think showing that historical precedent is a positive. That being said, WCAG changes their standards all the time. So, it's a hard target to meet, and compliance is kind of all over the place. So it's hard to stay in compliance without checking often. That was kind of a non-answer answer, wasn't it? I mean, monthly sounds, we like the quarterly scan.
Yeah, quarterly is what we like to stand by. Awesome. So we've got another question here about personalization. Would this personalization work well with specific ads or campaigns I'm running?
Yeah. So you just need we would give you kind of a parameter to add to the link. And when it would come in, it would know that it came from that link and would work perfectly. And that's kind of how I explained, like the knot is a good example because you kind of have your own social media type. And it knows it's coming from there because there's a link and we have a parameter on link, and then it can pull up wedding information. But let's say there's a special and I want to talk about the special, exact same thing, pull them right in.
All right. A question about branding guides. Do we have an example to share of a branding guide that their property can use or create? They don't know they have one.
So like the property would create a branding guide.
Hmm.
Um, do I have an example? I could probably send something. I probably don't want to blast it out right here, but I could send you our own Vizergy brand guide or another one we have, just like as an example of what we see as what you should do. And there's nothing special to it, but I think just having something so everyone's singing the same tune is really nice. Where I'm sending something to the printer, I'm going to attach my branding guide to it. I'm sending something to a digital marketer, I'm going to attach my branding guide to it, just so everyone knows the standards and everyone is using that to make a cohesive, collaborative brand.
Awesome. Thanks. Great question here. So, from a design standpoint, what can hotels do to make sure their customers stay on their site longer?
Make it, well, I would say keep your content fresh is a big one. And I would say make the website interactive in some way. So people that use their website a lot, like are always in and changing things, seem to have a longer on-page time. So there's a correlation between, how often you're changing that content and freshening it up, and how long people are staying. That being said, there's tons of things you could do to add, whether it be like events that are ongoing, things you can do. The worst websites I see, or the homepage is really evergreen and hasn't been changed in 4 years. Like nobody wants to come to that because none of the content is fresh, none of the pictures are fresh. Like I'm kind of wasting my time. I would rather go to their social media and find all the pictures there because we're all aesthetic. So I would say some kind of social feed would be nice for me so that content kind of keeps going. Reviews, because I think people are going and looking for reviews. So I would rather curate their reviews to like 4 and 5 star reviews and only show those. And then I would constantly be changing content.
Awesome. Thanks. Another great question here. Can you explain more about how the responsive web design works? Do you have to create different versions of the page, or is it just one site that shows different options to different people?
Well, are you good at coding or not? That's the first problem. We see a lot of websites where they have a different mobile site to a desktop site. And I talk a lot about partnership. That's being a terrible partner when I have to change that info twice. So I'm not going to get wonky, but we use something called Bootstrap, which is, a different fluid coding system. So my goal is to make the exact same website in mobile as I do in tablet and desktop, large monitors, movie screens. And the way we do that is through Bootstrap, but also it's really deciding what we're going to make on that mobile site first and then growing it from there. A lot of people make this beautiful, big desktop site that can't scrunch down into mobile. Because, you know, sometimes you get on websites and you just feel like it's too tight, or they'll completely remove information, completely remove widgets. Where for us, we're starting on that mobile screen and we're growing it up, which I mean, could make for a less flashy website, as I would say, but it makes for a super easy to use website that is good for everyone.
Thanks. So, on the opposite side of the how to keep people on your website longer, we have
How to
someone who
get
said, I would prefer to have a shorter time, considering most people are price shoppers who are coming to the website to book a room. How do you get them further in the funnel from a design point of view?
Yeah. So, all right, I understand you want people to book rooms. I 100% get that. I think the website should first and foremost function as a way to get people to book a room. So I think that always needs to be easy to access. And every website we have ever made, we put the booking button in the top right corner because we found via data that that's where people are looking for it. We use a day rate search box, or we use some kind of booking widget for that up in the corner. I would still say I want all that information you're talking about even after the person books. Sometimes I'll book a room and then I'll be like, it'll be a week before I'm going to the hotel and I want to see what there is to do around there. I want to see what the restaurants are like. I want to see what the hotel's like. I still think all that information needs to be visible, and I would like people to spend more time on there. But it could be post booking and it could be pre booking. As long as they're booking and they have the option to book, that's fine with me. And I would say just make sure they never have to go looking for a booking button, and they always have it within view. Mobile, tablet, desktop, everything, always in view.
Good answer. Quick
I've had that
question.
one
What are
before.
your thoughts on pop-ups? I know this is always a hot
Ugh,
topic.
oh my gosh. This one gets me because like the data says something different than my mind. So I don't know how to. So please be sparing with pop-ups. I do agree, and the data does tell us that pop-ups do work. So I'm not denying that. But man, we've all been to a website that has 3 pop-ups the minute we load, and that can be a bummer. And I would say that is really making me already annoyed at the hotel before I even interact with the site. I'm just exiting out all these pop-ups. I would say the thing you could do is make it where someone goes to close. It's called an intent to close. And then the pop-up could pop up there. So now we're kind of interspersing them. Maybe like, hey, we've gone down the page a certain amount. Then a pop-up could pop up. Or when they're going to leave, it could say, hey, wait, we want you to book a room. Here's how you could do that. So at least you're not doing it right when it pops up. Maybe we only have a single pop-up when that happens. I agree they work. And for specials, have at it. Don't more than one, and I have to throw my computer away. So I would say just one.
Yes, no pop-up ambushes, preferably.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So back to your point at the beginning about the tabbing ADA function. You said that anybody can do this, or specifically a developer has to.
No, it's you. You are the answer. It's not me. I'm the subject matter expert. You can go in and do this today. You just have to have a tab key and a return key. So it's so easy. I know you probably never tried it. Reload your website when we get off this call and start hitting tab and return. And it should start to scan you through the site. Tab means go forward, and enter means click on whatever I've done. So it should be super easy for you to do. If it's not, that should start to send alarm bells that your website's not working and is not ADA accessible. And that's kind of when you start to have that conversation. I would say set a calendar reminder today for each month, and then every once a month go in and manually check that it's working. Because as I said, you can be the advocate for ADA without knowing that much about it. Because if you're the one to find it, take it to your bosses and get it fixed, you've now stopped your company from getting a lawsuit and a huge headache, you know, and a bill that's kind of unnecessary. I don't want to pay money to the lawyers any more than anybody else. And this is a way you can stop that.
Great. Other than videos, what kind of specific content is a must-have for your design team? Maps, reviews, new photography, etc.
Man, photography is number one. And people with bad photography, here's something we always get. And I don't ever want to say don't buy a website because I love money, but get get photos first. So often we have people that come to us and in the discovery call, they're like, all right, we're getting photos next week. and you're too late then. That guy's going to have to edit those. The website's going to launch without new photos. I would say get new photos first, and then we can make you a great website. So photos are number one. I would say those interactive maps I showed are probably number two, because I think it can really show spatially what you're around, and it can really start to, be its own tour guide and show all the things around. And I think people are not doing that enough, and it would be a super easy thing for us to execute.
All right. And I have a little bit of clarification from a previous question. So maybe responsive site was the wrong term. I didn't mean
Okay.
desktop versus mobile. I meant tailoring the content based on different criteria. So back to the personalization topic.
Yeah. So
So which website they're coming from, how does that work?
yeah, so we would put a parameter on a link. So let's say you have your not thing because you have, I'm sorry, I'm doing the not a bunch, but like, let's say you have a link on there that says visit their website. We add a little bit of a parameter to that link. And then when they come in, it says, hey, they just came from the not to our website. And then it's going to tailor content because of that parameter on the link. So that can be done so many ways, whether they're on a mobile phone, whether they're in a different country via IP address. There's a lot of different ways we can tailor that content. But I would say like that's the number one way we do it is maybe a social media link, or they visited a page on the website from a meetings and events area, because meetings and events is so crucial to a lot of people's bottom lines. I hope that answered it. Well, we're getting close. Can I do my last slide?
Absolutely. Get that last slide up.
Sorry. All right. All right. This is my last slide. I tell a lot of people it. Don't forget, your brand should tell a story. It should create a sense of community, and it should feel extremely authentic to who you are, and then capture your target audience. But to capture your target audience, you have to know who your client is, and that takes data. So there's my email. If need be, hit me up. I have no problems answering any more questions. If I didn't answer, since I can't hear anybody, I don't know if it made any sense. So what do you think? We're good? 101, we were pretty good on time.
Yep, I think we have definitely hit time. I don't know if we were able to get our friends from HSMAI to join us here at the last minute. I know Robert Levine was going to try, but we have absolutely enjoyed speaking with you guys today. And if you, joined us late today, or if you just want to learn more and hang out with us again, we've got some more webinars coming up every Wednesday in
Yeah.
July. So please make sure to stay tuned. You'll be hearing from a couple other experts of our team, and we are excited to answer more of your questions.
Well, thank you so much for your time, everyone. We know everybody's busy, and we appreciate you spending this hour with us. Cool. Thanks, Jen. You did a good job.
Thank you, as did you.
Need a drink water.